I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting back to order, and we'll move on to the next topic of discussion, the building and permit analytics update. I'll turn it over to Matt.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Matthew Grambo, Deputy Development Services Director. This afternoon's presentation will cover a couple different topics. I'll provide a high-level overview of 2025 calendar year permitting activity, followed by a discussion of a variety of statutory requirements under Florida law for building permitting service levels. And then I'll conclude with a discussion of some current initiatives related to compliance and dashboard and database decision-making. So to begin, in calendar year 2025, the city received just over 31,000 new permit applications. Included within that 31,000 was 22,645 unique building permit applications. These are building permits, typically starting with a BLD prefix. And these are important because these are the permits that are relevant when discussing the Florida statutory requirements for service levels. For those 22,000 unique building permit applications, we completed just over 73,000 building permit reviews. The average building permit application required about 3.24 reviews for approval prior to permit issuance. And over the last full calendar year, approximately 67% of building permit applications that required review, so not including the approximately 7,500 push button permits that the city issued, were approved during the first review cycle, so did not require any resubmission. This is a real key metric because the industry standard is between 65 and 70% for residential permits, small residential permits that are in areas that are categorized as high growth, strict code areas, such as Florida and California permits. And the percentage, the 67.85%, does not include our push button permits, as I had mentioned, because those do not require plan review under the Florida Building Code. Moving on, I'd like to discuss what's informally known as the state of Florida shot clock. So these are the statutory requirements under Florida law that permit issuing agencies need to comply with. First, local governments must verify that an application is properly completed within 5 business days of receiving the application. Otherwise, the application is deemed complete under Florida law. Number 2, upon the receipt of a complete building permit application, local governments have a variety of timelines that they need to meet based on the type of permit and the scope of work. And I'll be talking about that on the next slide in a little bit more detail. And finally, the penalty for failing to comply with the Florida statutes 553, 792 is that the issuing agency must reduce the permit fees by 10% for every business day that the review cycle is late. So this chart that you see in front of you discusses each of the timelines that we must comply with. It really depends on the type of project and also the size of the project based on square footage. Small residential, which is the vast majority of our new construction permitting here in the city of Cape Coral, has a 30 business day review timeline after a complete application is received. Larger residential, that goes up to 60 business days, non-residential 60, multifamily 60. Then the timelines get a little bit lower for things like mastered building permits. We have 12 business days for those. CDBG-DR, single family affordable housing permits require a 10-day review cycle. Private provider for single trades, which just changed mid last year through the most recent legislative cycle, is a 5 business day turnaround, but only for single trade private provider permits. Other private providers permits have 20 business day timeline. And then for any resubmit, so the top 8 different timelines are for the first initial submission. For all submissions for after the initial submission, there's a 10 business day deadline, but that is only triggered if the applicant resubmits within 10 business days of receiving their review comments. Before you, you see a chart of our single family home review times for all of calendar year 2025. It shows each month what the review cycle time was for that specific review, and then it has the averages on the far right column. One important thing to note on both this and the next slide is that we do concurrent reviews here at the city. So all of these reviews are happening at the exact same time. So to determine how quickly a permit applicant is receiving their review comments, you want to look at the longest of those 6 different types of reviews. So on average, building and floodplain was about the same, around 17 business days over the last calendar year, and the shortest was the stormwater. So applicants could expect a turnaround of about 17 business days upon an application being deemed complete. This slide is the commercial review times, and I do have one correction that I'd like to note. It does say in parentheses calendar. However, all the dates, the days on this chart are business days, as indicated in the line chart on the bottom side of the slide. So commercial, you can see that we are slightly faster than our single-family residential permits, with the longest average review being 13 business days, and that was for the building and zoning review. So going a little bit into what we do here at the city to ensure compliance with 553-792, we do both proactive measures and responsive measures. The largest measure that we take is we set all of our internal deadlines within Energov, our permitting software, to a 30 calendar day review cycle rather than the 30 business day cycle that is discussed in statute. We also apply that 30 calendar day review cycle to all of our different permits that are not private provider or not mastered. So both commercial and residential within the system have a default 30 calendar day review cycle. So we have about a 28% buffer between the statutory deadline and our own internal deadline. And then, of course, we do a 10-day deadline, calendar day deadline for all of our resubmittal reviews. And we follow that 10-day resubmittal even if the applicant doesn't do their resubmit within 10 business days per Florida statutes. Our response measures that we take, we on a monthly basis review and analyze all of our potential missed deadlines to identify if there's a resource or process improvement that we can be making. So staff within all of our divisions that touch permitting and fall under 553-792 pull data directly off of our city servers using an SSRS reporting system. And for any refunds that may be due to applicants, those are processed through the standard refund process through the permitting services division. So in 2025, based on our analysis, we met the statutory requirements, the statutory timelines on 22,634 of the 22,645 building permit submissions. And so that's about a 99.99% compliance rate. So in 2025, the missed deadlines were primarily focused on earlier in the year when we were still doing responsive efforts with staff after hurricanes Milton and Helene. The floodplain inspections and the substantial damage determinations that we're required to do per our corrective action plan with FEMA required impact surveys and then substantial damage, substantial improvement determinations for all affected properties. And we had a tight timeline for state reimbursement and federal reimbursement for that initiative. So we had reallocated some resources that would have been completing reviews to ensure that we were able to have all of our time reimbursed for the Hurricane Milton and Helene response. One other provision in Florida statutes under 1E of 553-792, due to if a delay is attributable to force majeure or extraordinary circumstances, the permit fee refund is not necessary in those cases. Now, I had mentioned a couple slides ago, our internal deadline is calendar days. However, the statutory requirement is business days. So as far as the 30 calendar day turnaround time, we met that at about 94.4%, or about 69,318 out of the 73,401 reviews. So now I have a curious slide up on the screen. This is the chart that we have been including with our monthly building reports. You receive those on a quarterly basis as part of our normal quarterly updates. And you can see that the top line of each of these permit types, with the top being the single family permit type, you can see each month it's over 100 days with an average of about 113 average calendar days from the initial submission to when a permit is issued. So the last couple of slides, I've been discussing all these pretty tight turnaround times, 17 days for single family homes. Then why is the average from permit application submission to eventual issuance so much higher, over 100 days? Several different reasons for that. though very common in the industry to have a time to issuance metric, it doesn't take into consideration many common delays that are outside the scope of our control within our organization. Prior to approval, the most common cause for delay, so this is when your permit would be in submitted online, resubmittal status, in review status, just in review status or submitted online status. It's often due to incomplete applications, but the primary driver prior to approval is for resubmittal delays, where it takes some additional time to work with design professionals, architects, or engineers, revise the plan set, provide them to the contractor, contractor's office staff member provides them in a formal resubmit back to the city. Now, we have a 180-day deadline prior to permit approval before an application may be deemed abandoned, investigated, and then voided. We give them up to 180 days, so they can take up to 180 days to do their resubmit after they receive our comments. So when you average that all together and consider that most permits that are new construction can take 2, 3, 4 review cycles, that's why there's such a difference between the review timelines that is governed by statute and the time from the initial submission to the issuance of a permit. Now, prior to permit issuance, so after all of the reviews are completed and approved, and the permit is pretty much ready to be issued when it comes to city staff, there's also a couple different factors that also add to the delay. The most common is the failure to pay the fee balance that is due for the issuance of the permit. We've been doing analysis on a morning basis with the city manager, looking into different causes for permit applicants not paying their fees and receiving an issued permit after the permit's approved. And this is the top reason for extended delays. But there's other reasons for delays as well. Missing non-review documentation, such as subcontractor forms, and then missing prerequisite permits, such as seawall permits for new construction, a demolition for new construction, or even site permits for commercial construction. So, beginning last year, we started having multiple Kaizen events through the city manager's Bureau of Transformative Change and working with Wayne from Lean Breakthrough. And we've started to initiate several recommendations from those Kaizen events related to improving the efficiency of the permitting process, maintaining statutory compliance, and reducing waste throughout all of our processes to be as efficient as possible. One of the major takeaways is the need for more active management during the permitting process. So the recommendations included things like having a morning meeting to review all upcoming review assignments and trends, looking both forward to the workload over the next week, but then also backwards over the last week and even over the last 30 days to see how we've been performing, and really to institute that continuous improvement cycle that you can see on the right side of the screen. We've also been working on significantly improving our permitting and building analytics, and I'll share a little bit of that a little later into the presentation. We regularly review our process improvement recommendations, and then also as part of that waste reduction, we've been streamlining the permit intake review and issuance processes to make sure that we are as lean as possible in all of our internal processes while the contractor is waiting for us to complete our tasks. So on your screen, and I apologize for the very small font on this, but this is a report that is run every single night at about 4 p.m. and it is emailed to all directors and other key members of management that shows tomorrow what the workload is in terms of meeting our internal 30-day deadlines. On the far left of this chart, you can see days past due. So that is based on our 30 calendar day timeline, shows the permit number, shows the status, even shows who the reviewer is, who is looking at that specific permit. So you can see this one was from last week, Wednesday, and there were 0 permits that were past due, but the next day there were approximately 20 that needed to be completed to meet our internal calendar day based deadline. So we've been reviewing these every afternoon and meeting on them every morning, ensuring that we're able to identify any trends, reviewers that are working up to the very last day of the internal deadline, looking at areas where we may need to have some redundant reviewers due to unexpected PTO or time out of the office for the review team. And we've been able to transfer reviews and ensure that we're meeting our internal deadline in the system using this tool, which is automatically generated off the server and then automatically sent to management for each function completing permit reviews. Oh, Oh, also, the city manager reminded me to bring up the version column. So again, apologies for the very small font, but the column underneath the P and permit review due date in the header says VER. So that's the version. That's how many times we have seen this given permit application. So you can see a lot of ones. So that's the first review cycle. You can see several twos. So that's the second review cycle. But if you go down to the third from the bottom, you can see 5 different versions. So this has come back to the city and been resubmitted 4 times for 5 total review cycles on this specific permit application. So additionally to looking at our own staff, looking at our own workload and ensuring that our staff are meeting our internal deadline, this report also helps us to identify some trends and look into reasons why permit applicants are having to resubmit so many different times to get their permit issued. One thing that we do at the City of Cape Coral that is not particularly common nationwide is we do both site development permit and vertical building permit reviews at the same time. So you do not need to have an approved or issued site plan or site permit for commercial development prior to submitting your vertical building permit. So this allows us to kind of do additional concurrent reviews and save commercial developers a little bit of additional time at their own risk, because there may be some comments related to the site plan review that could affect the footprint of the building based on utility locations and other horizontal improvements that are proposed for the site. And then what you see before you is our brand new permitting dashboard. This is based through Microsoft Power BI or Business Intelligence, and it includes a lot of information that is updated regularly right off of our servers. It shows at the top left what the top submissions were over the last 7 calendar days, and you can see this was taken last week. And the utility slice of the pie there is really high. That's due to the large number of connection permits due to the UEP that we are currently receiving. Below that, it shows a breakdown of each type of permit or work class, which is almost like a specific type of permit under a broader permit type. And you can see that we received the 7 days prior to last week, Wednesday, 1,007 permit submissions that previous week. The middle section of this shows the average completion time by submittal type. So it shows how long from the application being submitted to the applicant receiving their comments or their issued permit for each different type of permit type. On the upper right, it shows the upcoming review workload. So this is the forward-facing analytics that we rely on to make business decisions, and it shows how many are due, within the next week, 7 to 14 days, 14 to 28 days, and it really shows what the workload will be over the next week, so that we can reposition resources accordingly. This shows the average days to complete review coordinator tasks based on the previous 30 days. Review coordinator is a module within Energov that helps you route reviews and manage the reviews when they're concurrent. And then there's additional pages that I didn't screenshot at the bottom of the right side of the screen. This is a work in progress. We've discovered large amounts of historic data on closed permits that was affecting what the averages are. So you could have a permit back from 2018 that was closed, but during the transition from Trackit to Energov, there was an issue with the conversion that involved an open task in the system. So we've been cleaning up those. So this information within the next couple of weeks, as we're nearing the end of our cleanup project, should be entirely accurate without any data anomalies that would affect the averages in the analysis. So other process improvements beyond what we've been doing with improving our data and analytics. We have, of course, ongoing Energov upgrades and reconfigurations. We have a major upgrade coming the 3rd week in May of this year, coming up in about 2 months. That will also include a refresh of the CSS, or Citizen Self-Service Portal, the public-facing portion of our permitting software. So we are working to ensure that the community and the applicants are aware of any changes that may affect their experience when applying for permits online. We also are currently finalizing the revision of our permitting guidelines and checklists to have more easily readable and understandable checklists for permit applicants to be able to follow when preparing their permit documentation packages for our review. We're hoping to restart our contractor's office staff training as soon as the CSS changes are in place in May to ensure that we can update our educational material for contractors' office staff to ensure that they know how to apply for permits with the City of Cape Coral and any nuanced requirements that are required under our land development code. We've been very consistent with issuing notices to the industry for any potential business process affecting change that we're making internally. We've been doing those consistently per an internal policy really over the last 2 years. And then finally, we are working to digitize all of our common attachments. One of the major sources of delays and for applications being deemed incomplete during the initial review is missing or improperly completed attachments, such as burrowing owl or gopher tortoise affidavits. By digitizing these attachments, putting them natively within the online application, we hope to prevent the need to continuously re-upload and resubmit documentation. And also we would have a little bit additional control over the key fields that must be completed for these attachments. So in sum, these are all of our ongoing initiatives, along with everything coming out of the Bureau of Transformative Change Kaizens. And then together with our improved analytics, we're hoping to really improve our service levels and to provide improved predictability and service for our customers. So with that, I'm available for any questions or discussion.
Mayor, may I
Sure, go ahead.
add some? Matt, I just want to go through a couple of things to supplement the information you provided. Can you go back to slide 2? Okay, excellent. So before I start teasing apart some of this data, I just want to say, congratulations to all of my staff in development services, both on the intake, on the review, the inspections. We're not even looking at inspections here. We're just looking at permit issuance and review. Hats off. 99.99% over an entire calendar year. We are the best. I challenge any other development services team to put those kind of numbers up that we have. Now, take it back to 2023, 2022 when we rolled this out. I don't doubt for 1 minute that it was hell on the contractors, on our staff, and on the industry. There were system issues with the software. There were blue beam outages that were our softwares related to how our system functions. There was spinning screens. There was unknown processes. Then we had a hurricane in 2022, basically October. We didn't even get to issuing permits till December, to basically the first of the year. And in that year, we had 80,000 plus permits. That's a four-year aggregation of permits to put out in 1 year while we were struggling with system issues. So for a couple of years, yes, it was hell. But this data shows you what our staff has done to be the best. Now I want to point out some things on this slide, and I'm going to go through a couple more. 2/3, bullet number 5, 2/3 of every single building permit that comes in is issued on the first review. So what the heck is going on with the other third? That they need so many reviews that it pulls the average all the way to 3.24. In statistics, we call that a skewed chart or a right tail, whatever you may call it. Those who are failing miserably. But 2/3 of the population requesting data is succeeding successfully. So one of the things that Matt showed you was key for us on that, what we look at every day, is to look at the number of versions that any of these have come through. And I can tell you every single day, if I see any number greater than 4, we open that permit and we dig into it. Last week, I sent you all an example. 7 rejections. And for the last 4, the contractor has not even addressed 2 of the items from the 3rd rejection. Which means the last 4 times it's come into us, they've submitted junk. So I've asked my staff, find me a policy, this has to end. Because what does that mean? That means for those who are trying to comply and who do want their permit on number 2 or number 3, 4 times we've had to open somebody else's permit, issue the same comments, do the same review, and waste time. It's hurting the good people, the ones who are trying to comply and get their staff to work. Additionally, with 2/3 being successful, that shows you some of the things you may have heard, and I know I've spoken to several of you about it. Well, is our staff just opening up permits and issuing a rejection to get it out of the queue? I would suggest to you that 2/3 getting it on the first try suggests no. And the fact that the other third need greater than 4 to pull the average all the way up to 3.24, that's not the case. Go to number 4, please, Max. I want to draw your attention to the bottom line, resubmittal review. One of the things that we often hear is, well, when I resubmit my permit that's been rejected, I get put back into the queue with everyone else, and I got to wait 30 days. It's false. Our system puts a 10-day deadline on that, regardless of whether or not they submit within 10 days. We are honoring the 10-day review on on versions 2 or greater, even if they fail on their end. That's being business friendly. That's giving that permit who's already been in some preferential treatment, aligning it with state statute to get that permit out. Why? Because there's a homeowner or a business on the other end who wants to get to work or wants their improvement done. We're going above and beyond state statutes. Slide 7. This is another way of saying the same thing. You see 1B, 10 days for all resubmittals. That's building in, as Matt said, a 28% buffer. He hit the comment that I wanted there. Slide 8, it's just, I have to say it again for my staff. 99.99% meeting statutory requirements. It is unheard of. So when I tell you what the complaint here or two that I get once a month or twice a month doesn't line up with what I'm seeing, here it is. There's something going on with that individual project or permit that is causing it to be completely like the mess. Hats off again to staff. Page 10. Okay, Matt touched on this. If you look at overall average, you'll see 113 days. I want you to look at the next 3 lines. The first line is minimum days to issue. So what was the quickest amount of time it took for somebody to come in here and get a single family building permit? 13 calendar days. That includes weekends. We can get a permit out of here for a single family home, I would say in 10 days, if everything is there and it's right. The proof is right here. The average is 84. I completely think the maximum is completely unacceptable. 571 days. And I believe what we're seeing in those cases is either the contract for sale has fallen out and they don't want to void the permit because they have cheaper impact fees under old rates, or it's a spec home and they're using the old building code. We need to address that, because that number just continues every day that it doesn't get issued. It just continues to keep growing that high number, which then keeps pulling up our average. Again, 13 days to get a single family building permit out of our door. On page 13. Matt talked about it, and I said on the versions, you see the one that's number 5. Every single morning I meet with IT, building, and city management executive staff, and public works, anybody in permitting. And we look at this. I'm going to tell you, sometimes I've come into that meeting and this chart is blank, which means everything that is in hasn't even gotten to being almost overdue. When I first started doing this, September, October of last year, when I would pull this up, we did have stuff that was 2 days, 3 days. And as we started digging into them, we started to see we had some teams issues of assignment. These things were being assigned to one reviewer. And if that reviewer was on leave, or if they were on bereavement or on vacation, or a seminar, it was sitting in their queue. So I immediately start sending emails to my director saying, this is a bad business practice. We're hurting ourselves. We're doing phenomenal, but we can still get better. And so we've implemented more teams. I have my directors now all get this instead of just the core group, so they can see if any of their reviewers are late or even close to being late. And they're implementing their own processes. And then lastly, the next slide, Matt. So on this one, I will tell you that since this, in the last 2 weeks, I've actually added even to this chart. So now above the middle, which is, the way this is set up is the left side is forward looking, what's in the queue that needs to be done. The middle is rear view mirror. How long did it take us to get done what was there? On this chart, you'll see there are the top 2 that are over 30 days. Everything else, every other permit type in the city is taking less than 30 days. So every day that any of those numbers is over 30, this is a live chart linked right to our data system. So for example, single family mastered is at 33. If we were in a live session, I would have my staff click on that button, and any of the ones that drug that over 30, we would open them up and we would tear through them to figure out what's going on. And anytime we find something that we can improve, we create lists every day of implementations to software, to processes, and to policies to fix this. And I'm not saying to fix a broken system. I'm saying to fix not meeting the goal of 30 days. But you can see right there, and that's not even all the permit types. The chart gets less and less for each one. I want to tell you, about 3 weeks ago, I had a resident call me and say, I've got or text me and said, I have a marine permit. About how many days should we expect for that to go out? I went right to this chart, found the marine. It's right there in the middle, literally right in the middle, reviews, marine improvement. It said 22 days. And then I was able to tell him, oh, by the way, here's how many came in for this week. And then I went and clicked on that and opened up and said, you're about 4 down in the queue, because he was about, I think, 20 days to go. He was in 20 days. And I said, there's 4 more ahead of you. You're probably going to be done in the next 2 days, right on cue with our average. But what I've added now on top of this in the middle is also, so we've got forward looking, rear view looking. Now I have also added to this chart, I think it's over 6 months, every day how much is coming in and how much is going out. And those lines are trending on top of each other. I'm going to tell you that right now, the last several months, we're putting out more than we're taking in, which means these numbers are going to continue to drive down. So you see over history, the top line of what's coming in was higher, what we're putting out was lower, but those 2 lines now are converging, which means we're getting better, even better than where we're at today. And all that means is if we're already at 99.99, it means we're going to get faster and faster. In closing, I want to thank those of you who have joined me and my team at 8:30. I've invited all of you anytime to come and see what we do. Several of you have. Others who could not join have asked me to show you this, and I've walked you through it in our meetings. And I'm thankful that you are interested in the improvements that we are taking to make Cape Coral the best it can be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. I'll open up for discussion. Councilmember Kaduc.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. City Manager. That was a lot of words. So, question, can or does the property owner get notified when the permit gets kicked out?
Great question. They can, but they do not currently.
Why?
The reason is because of the permissions for contacts that are added to the permit record.
If they are getting a notarized NOC, why are we not getting their information so that we can notify the owner of the property?
It's trying to figure out the mechanism for ensuring that they were updated. So we are currently working on a custom field to be in the applications, part of the document digitization improvement that I mentioned on the last slide. But we have to change every single permit type and then require the contractor to input that information into the system. And then we can use that information to automate emails that go to the property owners.
I would make that a priority.
It is.
I can tell you as a construction lender, I will not close a loan until that permit is ready to be picked up. The fees don't have to be paid, but that permit needs to be ready. So I am personally walking through my borrowers, here's what's happening, and I'm only seeing it from Energov, not even as a contact. So that needs to happen. I would make that a priority of your department. Also, you did kind of go over it. You had a slide in here, I think it was like second to the end. Let's see. Yes. Number 2, revised permit checklists and guidelines. Where can I find a copy of that?
So we have draft versions of every single permit type, but they have not been released yet.
Just
But
a single family home or a commercial property?
sure, I can send that to you and all of council.
Perfect. And also maybe put that somewhere where residents can find it so that they can give it to a contractor if they're looking to work with them. Because I was going to suggest that we have like a 30 to 50 point checklist, one sheet to give our contractors. I do get emailed all of your notice to industries. I'm part of the BIA and the CCCIA. The last one we got was about the pool finals. And I update my own personal checklist to my contractors that are doing construction loans. So I think that's huge. I also saw that you had, and I jotted down a bunch of notes, so I'm bouncing all over the place, 99.99%, which is awesome. However, was there a point in time where we had to pay out the 10% or reduce the 10% fee on the permit last year?
It would only have been, 11 permits, but I don't know if any of them applied.
Okay.
We'll find out and I'll send you an email.
Okay, thank you. And then on slide 13, you said, well, there was a list. If you look down, you see there was 5 versions of this and it was for commercial review. Do we have a checklist or one sheet for commercial property?
So we
contractors?
do have an existing and then also a draft updated version of that.
Okay.
What's a little bit tricky with commercial is there's so many different scopes of work, so there's different requirements.
Well, and
But-
I think about a Publix.
Mhm.
They are going to bring in their own team to construct, not local contractors for the most part. I'm just throwing out fake names here, but if it's a big box store, they're usually coming in with their own team, own engineering, and it's different here in Cape Coral than it is in New York. So I think that would be helpful. And yeah, I would, again, just make the number one priority, making sure that the owner of the property gets notified of anything, because then they are then bugging their contractor. And I think that will help a lot. Thank you.
Yep, completely agree. I have one comment to make related to the 5 versions for that commercial permit. Commercial applications, we do receive lots of resubmits for those. And very commonly, it's due to the site plan, the site development permit not being approved yet. So you can see on the screen, it's the BLD zoning and the BLD building SVB. That means site versus build. And so the plans examiner is validating that they have a approved and issued site permit to make sure that there's going to be no future changes to this location of the structure.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I wanted to follow up regarding the permit checklist. Matt, we do have some permit checklists that are already live, correct?
Correct.
Yes, and so I want to tell you, I was a guest speaker at an event, and it was the permit checklist actually came out of the Kaizen event. So it was like, what is one of the best things we could do for the industry so that they're not failing at application? I think one of the first ones we released was a smaller one out of the event. Which one was it? Was it single family? At the event, after being the guest speaker, I had a young woman came up to me. It was a permit technician for their company. And she said, since you all released that permit checklist, I have gotten 0 failures for my submittals. She said, it has helped me succeed in my job 100%. It is the best thing. And it
I
was
want a
just
copy
proof.
of it, and I want to send it to the contractors that I'm dealing with.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Councilmember Kilrain?
Yeah, first of all, congratulations on really putting an effort into this thing over the last year to 6 months. And I've sat through those meetings, and I'm really impressed with the way that you approach it and the way that you analyze the issues that come out during that process. First of all, I think that perception sometimes is not really fact, but I think that by generating the type of metrics that you're producing now and educating the contractor world out there to follow these metrics in a manner that first allowing them to understand what they're telling us, and then ingraining those metrics with them so that they can also help us follow and track so that we take care of what perception is and bring it closer to what fact actually is critical. And I wouldn't do that with 10 things. I do that with maybe 3 or 4 key metrics so that it's easily communicated on a routine basis. The CCIAs and the BIA guys and everybody else that's out there understand that these are the parameters we're dealing with. And if there are issues with it, we learned about how it's being managed. And also with respect to checklists and outliers, from a checklist standpoint, if we are detecting particular types of permitting and or particular contractors that continue to have resubmittals, I know in the past we used to do a training session, either by category, where we'd bring people in and teach them some, and hopefully, as you have said, using the checklist to help refine the contract's eye and what is necessary to be approved. If we could get back into that training mode, I think we used to do it like as recent as almost a year ago or 6 months ago. Maybe pick up on that again just to help in that process. I think that might be helpful too. But I'm really impressed with the numbers that they're turning, and I really think that there's a perception out there that these metrics will help to kill, to bring us closer to fact. But let's do it simple and keep it simple with 3 or 4. Thank you for all the effort by all of the staff that's put into this. Because, if you talk about the Cape as compared to other cities, general people will tell you permitting is difficult here compared to other cities. And this is proving it's not the fact. So let's bring the facts into the limelight. So thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Councilmember Laster.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Matt. This is very helpful. So I go back to the issue right with Aldi. When the mayor and I attended that grand opening and we spoke with that project manager who was from like New York, he's not always aware. And I talked with Mr. City Manager about this briefly yesterday. So he's not always aware of all of the nuances or what you've given to the Florida contracting team. So I think that checklist, I was going to ask the same question about it being commercial is key. We need that for our big commercial products because it's my understanding that there's an Aldi's going in where the Winn-Dixie is near my house off of Cape Coral Parkway, right? So this is going to be crucial in getting these projects done and these businesses not in a panic for their COs. And then educating, when you talk about educating the contracting team or the regional team, I think that's going to be crucial too. Because oftentimes I find when I have issues either with residential or commercial, and I send them directly to you, and once you've spoken to them and had kind of the meeting of the minds with all of them, they're good. So I love that we're being proactive about it. Keep it up. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Steinke.
Thank you, Mayor. I was here and involved in 21 and 22 in the transition to intergov, and it was an absolute and total nightmare mess. No one liked it. It was horrible. Where we've come from then till today is just as incredible as that was horrible. And so I hope that the information shared today and the information like this that's available to whomever wants to see it will stop the false representations, false accusations, and generating actions that are not necessary based on cold hard facts, if those cold hard facts are sought out. So hats off to all those involved in bringing us to where we are today over the last 4 or 5 years, and certainly to the way the information is laid out today and the regular review that's going on. On page 2, there was comments made about, what's the cause and what the heck's going on with that other third. Since COVID and to where we are today, and certainly going through the storms and the tremendous amount of growth and building and rebuilding that has occurred, it draws contractors like rats to cheese to our area. And I'm guessing, and it's only a guess, but I'd be probably willing to bet some pretty good money on it, the 2/3 are our dedicated contractors and those people that have, they staked their claim on our area, and they've been here and they've invested in our community, and they know the city and the city knows them. The other third is likely those from other areas that come in to try to capitalize on a relatively short-term need. And that is our repeat offenders. If we were to look into it, of course, we don't have that listed, and it's wise not to put who's applying for these permits in here. Appreciate that. But that would be my guess is where that other third is, since and what's going on with them. On page 10, I do have a question as it relates to mastered single family, and at the top it says overall average single family, and then under permit type it says single family mastered. And in some of the other charts, it called out mastered, and so I would find it of interest and helpful if there was something that identified how many non-mastered, because it could be certainly a weighted average. When you look at the number of mastered plans that are submitted versus those custom plans that are submitted for review. And so I'm not questioning the math. I just find it interesting where the single family overall average minimum is 13.4, and yet the single family mastered, which should be easier, it would seem, minimum days to issue is 22. So somehow that minimum at 22.5 for mastered is down to 13.4 in overall average. And so I would think that the only thing left, it would be the single family non-mastered plan, which would seem like it would drive that number up, not drive that number down.
The overall average is the top line. So the overall average for mastered is 39 days compared to 113.
I get it. I was talking about the minimum.
Oh, okay.
The minimum days to issue a mastered plan was 22.5. The minimum overall average minimum day in the single family up top where it says overall average, minimum days to issue is 13.4. So whoever that custom plan developer was has got it locked and loaded that they could get their plan in 13.4 when a mastered took 22.5. The only point that I have there is it would be interesting to see the non-mastered numbers if we're going to call out the mastered numbers for me. And how we come up with that blended average in the overall average. And lastly, on page 13, the column that says assigned user, we talked about these reviews happening in tandem or in a coordinated way. Is the assigned user whoever is in control of that review at the moment? Or is that assigned user consistent through the whole process of taking that permit from application to issue?
So we always attempt to assign resubmittal reviews to the original reviewer. That's how we should ensure that there's not going to be conflicting or duplicate comments. There are situations where someone may be out of the office, a resubmit comes in, someone could be out for a week, but we have to be able to hit that 10 business day resubmit review time, or we have to reassign the reviewer. However, the assigned user is typically consistent throughout the entire process, and that's best practice and industry standard.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was asking, because certainly one person looks at it one way, another person looks at it another way, and that could cause some issue through the process. And so I'm glad to hear that the idea is to keep that person consistent from application to issuance. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Donnell?
Thank you. I followed along, and on that, you still have the slide up. Go to the next slide, the one where you talk about, okay. So I hear you, Mr. City Manager, on numbers. I was just kind of looking up while you was talking, because I know where we were as a city, and we're giving ourselves and I do like to applaud the good news of where we were and where we are. I did not see on here what the standard bearing is. I was trying to find the driving code to, okay, well, these are our numbers that have substantially increased. But what is the standard? Who sets the standard? I did not see that, and I know you have it. That would be helpful for someone like me.
30 days. And so if you were to look at the center bar chart, the histogram, and on the second one down, it's at 33. The top one is at 44. If you were to draw like a red line between the 33 and the 29 and down, that's the standard.
Okay. And if we could depict that some way, would be good. We'd be better. And who set that standard? The second piece that Councilmember Kaduki hit it right on the head. All right. When she mentioned the thing about, and this is a great step, and I think we're there. This in education we call it rubrics. So I guess now in contracting we're going to call it checklists. To the fact when we have these permits, if you have it, that just makes too much sense. That someone can see specifically, words matter, specifically what needs to happen in these areas. I'm just imagining that somewhere out there will be helpful without, you probably will tell me what we're expecting, because I think the last time we had the conversation was like, well, they're professional, they should know. That should stuff doesn't work in matters of this because it takes away the unknown. I'll leave it there, and because I'm all over inspections. I know that's not part of this, but that will come into play down the road. So I just want to put it in the back of your brain, housing group, these checklists where there's a matter of specificity for everything on here. So at that point, there's absolutely, you can always come up with something. I know some people will, but that's where I am on it. Again, I do want to recognize all of the effort. I applaud it. Again, this for me is just continual improvement. But please put back there the checklist, permits and inspections. And that's all I have. Were you going to respond? You're going to respond.
Yeah, I was going to tell you. So we have been working on the checklist now for at least 2 months, I believe. May even be a little, whenever the last Kaizen for that was. And staff has been, as they've been completing them, have been making them public. I want to tell you, at the risk of making another headline, at the risk of making another headline, but this is how we get better and cut costs. So I think I've said this before. We over a year ago were looking to beta test through UF AI software that helps the private sector before they submit.
Right.
So we were looking to get some software that would review the Florida building code, review our land development code. They run it through and it sends it back and says, hey, you're at 85%. These are the areas that you're missing. That turned out to not be so well. So we are now working with another company that will do the same thing. So before they even come to us,
Right.
the goal is for them to be able to put their plans through the software, and it says, you're missing widths on a doorway. You're missing, 7-foot setback. You're at 6'9" so we are trying to, again, find ways to put tools in the building industry's hand. That then does the exact same thing as education, but now it takes away our need to be physically there. They could do it from wherever they're at, put it in, get it adjusted. And then when it submits to us, we already know that here were the 4 things and it's been addressed.
Outstanding. Outstanding. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Long.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess just for my understanding, when we talk about checklists, because a couple of people have brought it up, are we talking about submittal checklists as far as what? So one page at the top, for one particular thing, boundary survey, title certificate, those sorts of things?
Yeah, we have both a short and long form for each permitting guidelines and checklists.
Sure.
So the checklist is the short form, and that's basically you need to be ensuring that you're submitting each of these documents that's required. The guidelines go into some of the code requirements and some of the more specifics.
Okay, that make more sense. The checklist doesn't make sense to me necessarily because that should already be there, right? I mean, you would imagine when we have a portal, like every other municipality and county in the state, the checklist is whether you're allowed to submit the application because you've uploaded a PDF under the category of boundary survey. You've uploaded a PDF under the category of, is that not how our system works?
We have them. We have completed guidelines and checklists for each permit type now, but they're relatively out of date. The way that the information is organized on them is confusing for applicants. And so the goal is to make it as user-friendly and clear as possible.
Okay, so that kind of rolls into my next question. I brought it up with Mr. City Manager too, and it kind of rolls into his question. When you look at the other 1/3, a lot of it could be self-inflicted. And so I know it's easy to kind of get caught up in the numbers and the figures, and you look at it and you say, well, it looks like everything's done on our end. But, from the other side, when you step out and you look at it and we have a submittal checklist, I submit BTRs, or my office does, daily almost. And every time we submit them, every single time we get an email back with additional questions. And it's usually the same exact questions. And my thing is, well, if you wanted to know that answer, put it in the damn portal, right? Because then what happens? These numbers, these figures, the clock's running. Right. And then when I do submit something that frankly should have been asked of me the first time, as far as being put into the Excel or whatever it is, the EnerGov, then it wouldn't have been kicked back and we wouldn't have had that second submission statistic or metric, which then makes the numbers, more inflated than they need to be. So it sounds like you guys are already onto that, but I just wanted to make sure I understand. And then just, I guess, to contextualize the 99% rate, I mean, that's really just saying, within 99% of the time after the statutory deadline, when someone submits and we submit a deficiency and they resubmit, those clocks continue to
The clock
reset.
stops once they receive their comments.
Okay, so really it's just as long as we get to it within our timeline, kick it back to them, they get through. So, I mean, 99% sure, that's great, but my barometer isn't necessarily where the metric is as far as the statutory minimum, but our counterparts from the actual permit issuance, not necessarily, hey, we were able to reset the clocks successfully with regards to the statutory. It's great that we do that, and it's better than not, and there are municipalities that don't. But again, I would be looking at what outside of our bubble, what the actual issuances of the permits are in our neighboring properties, and we might have that, but
Yeah, exactly. The time to issuance, from application submission to issuance.
period.
Yeah, that's put the white chart. That's
And there's going to be bad actors that mess that.
So, yeah, so that's why, so if you look at single family average days issue, 113 days.
Right.
That's the average.
Sure.
That includes the ones that are 5 submittals and the ones
Right.
that were issued on the first submittal.
So again, context, I
someone
would
were-
love that figure against other municipalities because we sit up here and some of us look at the 99% and say, oh, it's all great. What are we talking about? You know, what these people are saying Cape Coral's the worst to deal with. Well, without the context of that issuance, then really those numbers don't mean much from me. So I just wanted to make sure we contextualize that because 99.99 is almost statistically impossible when you put it in real world usage. Sure, we met the statutory requirement to let them know that they forgot, you know, the 7 on the end of the address, which is cool. But I'm concerned with relative to our counterparts geographically what the data issuance is.
Yeah, we can, I'll do, we'll do like a top 10.
Sure.
And we'll send it over.
Thank you.
Councilmember Steinke?
Thank you, Mayor. On page 14, it's the, yeah. Would it, if it were me, I think what would be helpful for me to put some context to this, inside of that yellow bar in the center of the last 30 days, as you explained it, Mr. City Manager, you said the one on the left is a look back and the one in the middle is a current.
Vice versa. The one on the left is what's come in and what needs to be done forward looking. Mm-hmm. In the middle is what's been done over the last month.
Okay. And so in that yellow bar, at the very top, the plan review by discipline in 44. What would be helpful for me is how many made up that 44, and like embedded in the yellow bar, if it said there were 35, you know, are making up this yellow bar, and down to pool and fence, you know, 18 are in this yellow bar, however many, because it's certainly, it might be easier, you know, from a, you mentioned statistical review, you know, the larger the number, the more accurate the outcome. And so for me, I think it would be good in that last 30 days, how many of these came in that came up with that average?
So this actually has the ability to do that on the actual Power BI page. This is just a screenshot. I actually was clicking on my PowerPoint slide trying to activate it because we do it every morning. But if you actually click on that yellow bar, you can export into a table. It'll show you even more information on every single one, what the count is, and it shows how it got to that average. And so that's super helpful. And it's the Power BI reports are all dynamic. Any single color on the the pie chart or the bar charts in the middle are all dynamic and interactive. So you can click on it, actually show the permit numbers, permit applicant, time of the status, all of that, and show you the count. So we can dig into these a little bit more and provide the breakdown on some of these because if you're only looking at the average, it's a challenge to make any type of conclusions. And typically with these, what we'll see is, we've had a couple that, pop up and, it's 800 days as the average. And we're like, what is going on here? And it's because there was a cleanup of some old data. They resulted a task on a permit that's been closed for 6 years that week. And it showed that was the completion of that task and it affected the averages. So it's also related to our data cleanup initiative.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other lights on, the only comment that I had is first, great job collecting all the data. Mr. City Manager, is this something, because all of us I know get complaints, about permit length times. And, I know for me, a lot of times when I go and actually look, it's typically not staff. It's either we're waiting for a resubmittal or something's been rejected. Somebody hasn't been notified. But as far as the data like this, is this something maybe, every 6 months we can kind of get an update on? That way we're pretty much kept up to date on how we're doing. It's almost like a matrix for us that we can utilize, especially when we get the complaints.
Absolutely.
So that would be my only recommendation, about every 6 months or so, maybe we can take a look. And that's a report card for us to see how we're doing as well. I'm sure staff will be utilizing it more than every 6 months, but at least for us, I think that would be helpful, at least for me. That's all I have. Thank you for all the work you've been putting into it.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on. We've already discussed the food trucks at the Yacht Club, so we'll go on to our last topic of the day, which is the Yacht Club 3D renderings presentation. So I will turn that over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. At our last Yacht Club discussion, where we were going over the cost for each component at the community park, there was some discussion about what were we trying to build, what were we trying to accomplish, who's it for? And so I had asked if you all wanted to see what was designed in 3D and what were the outcomes we were trying to obtain based on discussions and community input from all of the stakeholder groups and community sessions. And so today's presentation will be that.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. It's John Osterstock, Facility Projects Manager. Excited to introduce our design team for the Yacht Club, Kimley Horn and Sweet Sparkman, to present to you the final 100% complete design.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon. For the record, James Pankinen with Kimley Horn and Associates.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John Bryant, architect and principal of the Sweet Sparkman Architects.
As John said, we're going to give you an overview of the current design. We have completed documents and have submitted those to the construction manager. As you know, portions of the project, such as the seawall, are under construction, but the construction manager has the plans and is awaiting bidding those for future GMPs to present back to you for consideration. But did want to walk you through kind of the current design. We've got some 3D renderings as well as a video that will play for you. Just to give you context, many of you I don't think have seen some of these presentations before, so we wanted to make sure that you're up to speed on what is being proposed here. So for the agenda this afternoon, we're going to review the approved master plan. We'll talk through site access and parking, public safety and operations, and then also the community amenities that are being provided with the proposed plan. This is the last approved master plan that was done prior to then us getting authorization to proceed with construction documents. I'm going to kind of walk through this plan from screen right to left. So on the right side of the screen there at the number 14, that's the boat trailer parking, largely in the same location that it's been historically. We have realigned the parking spaces. We've lengthened them a little bit as much as we can to try to make them more responsive to current boat and trailer needs, as well as spacing. And we've also modified the circulation a bit just to make it a little bit more efficient to get one or two more parking spaces in there. So we've ended up with 46 boat and trailer parking spaces in that location. In the lower left part of that peninsula, that's the relocated boat ramp. As you know, historically that launched from an area that is directly launching into the river. Part of the master planning process was the desire to relocate that into the marina basin. That provides a more protected location, makes it a bit easier for launching and recovery. Also separates motorboats launching from people swimming at the beach, which is, can be a potential safety concern. So we have the new location in the what is the northeast corner of the marina basin there. Just north of that is the Harbor Master building that will include services such as laundry and restrooms for people in the leased marina spaces. We've got police operations as well as Coast Guard and some community meeting space in there. To the north of that is the parking garage. This the configuration here was expanded from the original approved version, but this is the version that we developed with the master plan after the impacts of Hurricane Ian. So the parking garage has two access points into it. Those are on the right and left side of the screen there. And then just north of that parking garage is Driftwood Parkway. And we did have a minor realignment to Driftwood Parkway in order to create some stormwater treatment and attenuation for the site, and then also create a little more of a meandering drive into the park site. Just to the, and is this, yeah, that does work. Just to the left of that retention pond is lawn gathering space. One of the things, again, that we heard in the public engagement meetings was people like to come to the beach and they like to come to the waterfront, but don't always want to be in the sand. So we have opportunities for people to be kind of upland of the beach, be on grass or be on hardscape, but still be able to enjoy the waterfront. The pier that we're showing here is not part of the current approved construction documents. That was a potential future item, so just wanted to clarify that. Along the waterfront here, this is the expanded beach. Again, we were able to pick up quite a bit of area by removing the boat ramp, which currently, again, sits at about this location. Moving then kind of into the core of the site, a lot of the improvements that you see here are where we were previously working around with the Historic Community Center building, the Rotino Center. So the program spaces for those have been kind of incorporated into the new building design that you see here. We're showing a playground for beach patrons or for park users. That's right along the sand. We've got a themed playground that's really exciting, reinforces the beachfront kind of tropical theme of the site. Adjacent to that, we have additional gathering space, just like the lawn area up here. Again, there's space right on the waterfront where people can enjoy the water, but don't have to get sandy if they don't want to. Right below that is a beach and pool restroom. The restroom has been designed to kind of have a split access, so your beach patrons enter from the water side facing the beach, and then the pool access would be from controlled access through the pool deck. That's in order to separate kind of operations from the beach and the pool deck. We're anticipating that the pool users would be more of a ticketed operation, so we wanted to make sure that people from the beach weren't coming in to use the pool without that ticketed access. Right adjacent to that is a children's pool with a large play structure, providing play activity, buckets, slides, those types of things into the children's pool. And then adjacent to that is the resort style pool with a zero entry beach entry that kind of has a great southern facing sunset view here. There's a lap pool, and then there's also just kind of resort and leisure pool over on the side over here. Certainly, again, we heard the desire to recreate the recreational components of the pool that you've had historically. So we have the lap pool, and that's, again, combined in the body of water with the resort style pool. And then adjacent to that, facing over the pool and then overlooking the water, the river, is the new community center. Stitching all of the site together, you can see kind of in the shaded color here, that's the Marina Walk, as we're calling it. That's hardscape features and landscape and benches. So it allows people to circulate from the garage all the way down to the Boathouse restaurant and into the park, and provides seating opportunities, benches, landscaping. Again, a really nice scenic view to walk along the waterfront. And then on the bottom side of the picture here, those are the day docks that are being proposed adjacent to the existing marginal seawall that you have. So we've been able to increase the capacity of day dock parking so that people can come park at the day docks, enjoy the beachfront, enjoy the restaurants, and enjoy the other activities. And then inside here is the renovated marina. From a parking standpoint, for speaking to the marina components first, again, we have 24 new day dock slips. We have 97 boat slips within the center part of that marina basin that we worked hard with the city and the harbor master to develop the boat slip matrix there. That features various sizes, again, kind of responding to market opportunities and your waiting list that you have for different sizes of boats. We also have 5 emergency services slips on lifts for police located in the northeast part of the site. So that gives us 126 total kind of wet slips and then 46 boat trailer parking spaces. For the site itself, we have the parking garage, which features 753 parking spaces. That's over 4 levels. So there's 1 level at ground and then 3 elevated levels above that. Inside there is 16 ADA spaces, and we have a number of spaces that are where we've run conduit for future EV parking spaces. So that gives us 769 total within the garage, and then we have an additional 9 ADA spaces that are front and center right adjacent to the community center. This view here is looking kind of a little bit northwest, kind of hovering over the entrance canal there. You can see, again, the Boathouse restaurant or the future restaurant replacement in the lower left corner there. The day dock parking slips along the seawall in this location, the roundabout drop-off, children's and resort pool, the beach restroom, and the pool restroom. In the background here is the lifeguard, pump house, and concession building. This is the community center in this location, and you can see the parking garage and harbor master kind of wrapping around the backside of the image there. This is a view just kind of showing your approach if you were utilizing the day docks. The day docks are fixed. We do have steps up to get you to seawall level. We are providing floating ADA docks as well on the southern end, right adjacent to the fuel stations. But this would be kind of your view if you're approaching the site via the water and wanted to park at the day docks and then go enjoy the site. And then John's going to talk us through some of the architecture components.
Thanks, James. So I'm going to walk through some key views of the buildings, talk about functionality of the buildings, a couple goals and objectives that really we carried through the design. Looking to restore an iconic waterfront destination, expanding access to the marina and the beach. We wanted to support safe marina operations, providing flexible civic event space, and really kind of recreating a vibrant year-round community hub. So the view you see here, this would be kind of upon entering the park, and you see the parking garage. We have what we see is sort of a timeless, durable, classic design that's carried throughout. The parking garage is a little bit more contemporary, but as we look at the other buildings, they have deep overhangs, kind of a Florida vernacular language. And we really were interested in using durable, easy to maintain materials. So you'll see a sort of a stone accent on all the buildings. That's actually a stone that would match the original Yacht Club stone. We were able to identify that original quarry, but cement, stucco, durable materials, pre-finished painted aluminum materials that we know work well in a coastal environment. James talked about the parking deck itself, 2 entries into and out of the parking deck. We also, on the roof of that deck, we have a central energy plant that efficiently, economically services some of the larger buildings. We also worked closely on continuity of operations and backup power systems. Just a couple other views of the parking garage. Throughout the buildings, we really wanted to take advantage of views to the water and to the beach. So even that experience of coming down from the upper level of the parking deck, taking advantage of, the view out to the water. So really an inviting, warm, kind of landscaped environment. Now we'll talk a bit about the public safety and operation features at the park. First, we'll look at the Harbor Master building. So this building sits adjacent to the marina. It would have public safety, police office. It has a Coast Guard office. There's also a ship store that would provide sundries, drinks for the public from the boat launch, and also some public restrooms and some small public facilities. So really a key building to support the function of the marina. Just a couple other views, again, kind of a wraparound porch. There's public restrooms there, so some public seating areas right adjacent to that Harbor Master building. This is just a view. There's with the facilities there, we would have the need for a maintenance building. So a small 2-bay maintenance building with an efficient office for a small maintenance crew on site. So now really the heart of the park, talking about the community amenities. One of the things from the start that I think drove the design of the new community center was based on the experience of the original Yacht Club, a strong desire to have a facility that could accommodate 2 large events at any one time. So what you're going to see in the floor plan is the ground level has a 500-seat multipurpose room similar to the original Yacht Club. On the second floor of the Yacht Club is a 350-seated banquet hall. So really the ability for this building to house, on a given weekend, you could have a large wedding upstairs and a big public meeting downstairs. Both of those can coexist at the same time with parking, with all functions. So very kind of functional civic space. A couple other views just of the porte cochere. So a very nice covered drop off to get you into the building. A couple other views of that space. And here, this is the floor plan of the community center. So we were also interested in bringing back some aspects of the original Yacht Club. So the experience from the original Yacht Club of coming into the entry foyer, then having the large multi-purpose room, then with views out to the pool. So we sort of maintain that relationship from entry lobby, multi-purpose room, and then views out to the pool. So again, a very different building, but maintaining some of the things that we think were very important about that original community space. There's also some additional meeting rooms on the first floor that give you rental revenue possibilities and really support that multi-purpose meeting room. This is a view from inside that lobby. So the double doors on the left of that view, that would actually take you into the large multi-purpose room, and then a nice set of stairs that would bring you up to that second floor banquet event space. So, again, good natural light. In this case, views out to the marina. Again, very warm, welcoming public space. This is a view inside the 500-seat multi-purpose room. The doors on the left would open up, and actually, you'd have views out to the pool, and there's also kind of a second floor mezzanine with access to a balcony, all within that meeting room. So a great public space, also a space that has a catering kitchen attached that could also be used for revenue generating events and rentals. Some additional support spaces. This is a breakout space adjacent to the slide I'm going to show here. So on the first floor, we also have a meeting room that can be subdivided into 3 spaces, so it can really flex between a 25 up to a 250 person event space. So, corporate rentals, things that could be, well accommodated in this building. We also have a history room on the first floor. So in this room, you could actually see the model that is outside of the foyer here could be contained in the history room, kind of history of the original yacht club site, even some features such as reusing some of the old glue lamb wood beams from the original yacht club could be incorporated into this history room. On the second floor of the community center, the real kind of heart of the building here is over to the left side is the ballroom space. In all cases, we were looking for adaptability, flexibility, giving the city the most options for how you can use this space. So it's a probably 7,000 square foot space that could be subdivided into 3, 2,000 plus square foot spaces, but really designed to accommodate a 350 person seated banquet with a full service catering kitchen attached. So we're going to look quickly at a couple renderings of the second floor. So this is, the second floor overlooking the lobby. Here is the pre-function foyer space outside of the banquet hall. Really nice views off to the left of this image, looking out over the marina. And then here is inside the banquet hall space. So you'll notice some kind of curtain windows off to the left. That's actually a nice balcony that overlooks the pool. And of course, a flexible space that can be subdivided, but really would be one of the larger, more kind of attractive event spaces in the area. A couple other support spaces, a groom's and a bridal suite that can be multi-purpose to also function as small meeting rooms. Here you see the bridal suite on the second floor. And then now moving back out of the building, this is a view from kind of in the pool looking to the really what is the balcony side of the community center. So if you think back to some of the meeting rooms and the banquet halls, that balcony that you see on the outside there, that's the space that you would be able to come out to. Here you see one of those balconies on the first floor looking out to the pool. We thought a lot about separation so that, you still have to have a kind of a ticket to get into the pool, but when you're within the building, you have views and you have the opportunity to kind of experience adjacent to the pool. Talked about the beach and the pool restroom, following in that kind of coastal vernacular. Go quickly through these. And, this is the beachside restroom. Couple other views from the community center looking over the pool space. And then the lifeguard concessions and pump house building, really a building that, gives your lifeguards spaces that they need to service the pool, public restrooms, and then all the pump and related facilities, and a concessions building that services the pool. And then just one other view, kind of the ticketing counter, where we have an opportunity for some public art, a seating area as you wait to get into the pool. One other view here. I'm going to hand it back over to James, going to close us out.
Yeah, so lastly, this is just a kind of an enlarged view of the community center and the resort style pool that you see there. We are showing a placeholder here for a potential future restaurant or another operation that could go in this location. At this point, that's been designed to be landscape and hardscape, but it was discussed during the planning process that there may be a potential for something like that in the future. So that's where we had shown this. But again, you can see the beachfront promenade that's hardscape with a sand wall between the sand and the promenade to help keep some of the sand migration off and help stabilize it. You can see again the resort pool and the lap pool and the children's pool and all the other features there. With that, we do have a video that we'd like to share, and then we can open it up for additional questions. Let me get to that here. This one.
Well, while James is loading that, just to go back in history, so this building is now a combination of the Tony Rotino Senior Center and the old ballroom. So when you think about the programming that we used to have, the ballroom, one of the biggest comments we got during the design and the community input sessions was that the ballroom was a one and done. If you had 12 people renting it or you had 200 for a wedding, it didn't matter. You couldn't use, nobody else could use it. And then in the Tony Rotino Center, they had a ballroom and then breakouts. And so the idea was to expand the footprint and create more green space and accomplish the number one request in the master plan, which was to expand the beach. All of this was combined into one structure with 2 stories.
So I'll just kind of narrate as we fly through the video here. You can see the Boathouse restaurant or the future restaurant replacement there in the corner. In the foreground here, those are the day docks. So again, a lot of waterside access to be able to pull up and then go enjoy the park, the restaurant, or the community center. You can see the port cachere drop off for the community center there. I talked previously in the presentation about the marina front walkway that stitches everything together, so you get a good image of that on the left side and then the right side here. That's the new Harbor Master building in the foreground with the parking garage structure in the back. The boat trailer parking. In the lower part here, that's the police boat lifts for emergency services. And the boat trailer parking. You can see the plaza space between the Harbor Master and the parking garage. And then this is a view really looking south down Driftwood Parkway. You can see the retention stormwater treatment that I mentioned earlier. That kind of is a foreground to then the river views beyond. To the right, that's a drop-off location. So if you're just dropping somebody off to utilize the beach, you can go there. Then you can go park, or you can go run errands and come back and pick them up later. But that's an overview of the video fly through there. With that, we'll open up to any questions or comments that you may have.
Councilmember Kadook.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. It's beautiful. One big part that's missing is what's the cost to develop this? It wasn't anywhere in the presentation at all.
That wasn't, the purpose of this presentation was to show the community and the council members who weren't here what was being designed. That was a big question when we discussed costs. So the costs were all discussed at the last count.
Okay, so I guess then my next comments and questions are really for this body and not for these gentlemen. I'm not understanding how we're here, which is why you gave us the presentation. To me, the local government's job is not to develop properties. Sure, we did have a property. We had a yacht club back in the day, and that was to attract people to come to Cape Coral and build and move here. But at this point in time, if we don't know the cost to develop this, or if we do know the cost to develop this, it really needs to be put up to the people on a ballot. And I know we still have time to do that. Alex, you've stated that you need until July. We need to vote on it. The people should be voting on it. I've also thrown out that we should have a phased in cost approach and Kimley Horn to look at how we could do that. And 5 people on this body said no, which is very interesting to me because I don't know how we're going to max out our credit card, so to speak, to build this And this is one of many projects that we have left in the city to build. I also thought it was interesting in the presentation, your harbor master building has showers, but the beach and pool restrooms don't. Why is that?
So the pool has showers on the pool deck as is required per code. The beach, we did not have a shower on the beach restroom. I think we have a foot rinse, but not an actual shower. But the harbor master showers are really for the people who are on the liveaboards or for the leased spaces within the marina.
Okay, yeah, I just didn't see any showers for the beach, but if you say that there are, then I believe you. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Kilrain.
Yeah, my intent is to try and progress this in a manner that's best for the city and for the residents overall. I'm not looking for likes on Facebook or any kind of media attention on this. Basically, a fantastic job in developing the design. My concern also centers around the ability to fund it and the debt load that we might either incur and or the resident tax burden that we might incur. And I think before we can progress further, and the reason we had not progressed further discussion on that is because we had RFIs out trying to find a third party to come in to help reduce the burden upon the city for the funding. That has not been productive. And we're at a point now where we can talk funding strategy. And I would propose at this time to city manager, if you would, consider maybe putting together a funding strategy on a phased-in approach with this, break it out to likable segments that make sense. For instance, the marina, and then maybe with the harbor master building, and then with the restaurant and the pool, and then the recreation area, and maybe the parking area. And to do that and come up with a strategy and present that strategy to us next. And we see what we can do from that and where we go from there. We may have to modify design. Maybe something else come out that makes sense that we weren't thinking about before. May we do it in a phased-in approach to do it in a manner that's, you can eat an elephant a bite at a time and maybe get there that way. So that's how I would throw on the table right now for discussion. Again, I think that there was logic in what we did so far up to this point, and I think this is a logical way to approach it going into the future. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Steinke.
Thank you, Mayor. This certainly is helpful. Up until now, no one's been able to see what the interior spaces would be like. We talked about floor plans and layout of the park in rough ways, certainly. Vision of us that the whole idea behind this was a coordinated effort to address a number of the city's needs, not just replacing, if you would, what we had that we lost, but what we're going to need for the next 40, 50 years, starting with where the city is now, not starting where the city was 60 years ago. And when you think of, to some degree, the codependency on some of the pieces of the puzzle, it's really hard to carve out some of the pieces and then have the remaining pieces attractive or worth it, let's say. And I know if you don't have vessels there, there's no reason for a harbor master. And if you don't have vessels that would need the services supplied by a harbor master, like the ability to wash and dry clothes and the ability to take showers and all of those types of things, the only thing that attracts those people are the amenities that are there. And so do I bring my boat where there's nothing other than the dock to tie it up to, or do I take it to a place where I can go swimming, I can eat, I can do my laundry, and that's what'll attract those vessels that will then provide revenue that funds potential debt service or makes it worthwhile. So as we would address this and carve it up into pieces and say, well, let's do what we can today, it'd be great to do all the marine improvements and then look at a whole bunch of empty slips, because there's no reason for a boat to come there. So I think we need to be careful with what we carve up, with the thought that we may not gain what we think we'll gain because of what we're going to lose in the meantime. So a lot of these component parts are codependent. So I would caution us as we evaluate this. I agree. There's got to be a funding mechanism or no reason. Otherwise, just bring your dog and walk the dog at the park there and go to the beach and there's nothing else there. To just say, okay, well, we've got the water there, let's bring the docks in. If the boats won't come because there's nothing else there, then it doesn't matter. So we need to be careful, I think, with that. I did have a couple questions. One, if you could, in the presentation, if you could bring up all the way toward the start of it, where you start with existing conditions. Are you able to bring that up? It's about the third slide or so that's in there.
Yes, 1 second here.
No. There you go.
This slide?
And no, even higher than that. Right where you started out the whole presentation. In our backup material, you have a big red square that says 01 existing proposed, and under that it shows an aerial view of existing conditions.
So you're looking at a draft that was updated with what I just walked through here. So I don't have that slide on this.
Well, the area of concern is on the very right-hand side of the screen. You see a canal area there where there are residences on the right-hand side that are out of frame.
Correct. Yeah.
Those residences, for the majority of them, have relatively nice boat slips, lifts, canopies. There we go. And so my concern for those folks that live there and that have been shared with me by some of them is that when you move to then the proposed site plan that's in my deal here, which is the next one, all of those slips and lifts in that aerial have been removed, and none of them are there. And with the, if you will, captain's walk that's illustrated that would be placed in, and then the attraction of vessels to line up on that northern seawall that are there, it will make the travel of vessels and the ability to turn around in that space what would seem to be hazardous to me based on the width of that canal as far out as those residences lifts and docks come out. And it was further illustrated in your video at the very end when you had the drone, or the simulated drone, if you will, coming in that area. It showed what looked to be beautiful vessels all lined up on the edge there, and not a single lift or dock that the residents have there on that southern exposure, on those southern exposure lots that are there. That would be a concern for me. It's always been a concern for me, and we've brought it up every time we've gotten together. And I think that's a little misleading in that spot of that video coming in. Okay. It's not going to look exactly like that video depicts. There's going to be all kinds of personal structures in that picture that don't show up.
Sure.
And are you saying that they're outside of the marine improvement zone?
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is that when you bring in a vessel that's got a 15-foot beam and you lay it up against that seawall that's at the northern side of this property, for then another vessel that would have a 15-foot beam that is probably 46, 48 feet long. For them to come into that canal and go, oh man, there's nowhere to line up today, to turn that boat around and come back out it's going to cause a problem for the day trippers that are there on the northern wall, and for the residents that are on the southern wall of their canal where their homes are. And I don't know what the exact measurements are. We certainly can do that. But, if you're working with this, 60 to 80 foot canal, and you've got someone that's come out 15 to 20 feet from the residences, and you've got a 15-foot beam lined up on the other side, it doesn't leave you a whole lot to turn a boat around in the middle.
You're right, yeah. Can I address two things on that? Or
Sure. That's why I brought it up.
Yep, thank you. You're correct that we're not showing it. We modeled what we're proposing with our plan. We can add in docks for the context that would be on the northern side of that canal. That's just so you can see that. I think throughout the phases of design, we talked about that marginal dock that is shown here, the Captain's Walk, whether that would be leased or not. I think the current thinking is that that's not part of the leased spaces. If you look at the parking counts that I provided on this screen, those 97 boat slips do not include anything along that wall. So I think we kind of landed that the city could utilize that wall as they wanted to, as they needed to, versus it being necessarily public parking or leased spaces, for that very reason that you brought up.
Yeah, my thought wasn't that it would be leased spaces. My thought is that if we make that accessible for day trippers,
Right.
To come in and line up their boat there, throwing their lines around cleats, whatever they would do.
Yeah.
And while it's true that you can anchor a boat, you don't have to attach it. You could anchor it as long as you're not, causing, something contrary to navigation, then you're okay. But what we're imposing on those residents there is the potential for something that I don't think we want to do. And so how we avoid that, I don't know, but it's just an issue that I bring up based on what I see. And you don't have the video that's on here, but when I watched the video on screen, I just noticed that as that came around, that looked really cool with all those boats lined up there on the wall. But it didn't show any of the private docks and private lifts on the right-hand side.
This is just an example of an 80-foot vessel in a dead end. So, I mean, all throughout the canals, all throughout the city, we've passed a mooring exclusion zone, so the center 50 foot has to always be open. But we have areas throughout the entire city where you have 80-foot, 60-foot vessels going into dead ends and making it. I'm not aware in 24 years of a boat that's never been able to turn around based on the current codes that we have today.
Right. Well, with the picture that's on the screen right now, if you stick that vessel over there on the city's land and they line up to that seawall, you're not turning a boat around in between them. If you take a look at where that lift is with the canopy over the top of it, that one, and you put that same boat that you just showed on your laptop on the other side of the canal on that seawall, you've got something hazardous getting started.
I don't think this boat can turn around.
It's not a matter of turning around. It's a matter of even getting in between them.
Okay, understand.
And so now you got a vessel pulling in there, whatever it is, 60 foot, 80 foot vessel pulling in there. And the only thing it's got left to do is to back out.
Yeah.
So
that's what happens in a marina.
well, look at the difference on the marina side on the picture we have on the screen
Mr. Mayor,
right now.
can I get a point of order here? I mean, we've got a huge project in front of us. We've got a long day and we're talking about boat.
I can move on. I can move on.
Let's
Thanks.
zoom out a little bit,
The next point that I had, sorry, I'm just trying to represent the citizens that own those properties there. On the floor plan on the first level, you spoke about the 500 capacity space that was there, and in the other meeting room, if you will, to the left, where you call it the large meeting room, it looks like what we're doing is making use of air walls in there in the meeting room, that large meeting room. Is that to divide that into 3 spaces that would accommodate
Yes.
3 different groups?
Yeah, that space could be divided with, movable partitions into 3 different rooms that are about 800 square foot apiece, or you could set it up with one room that, could accommodate 200 people.
I get it. And then the question then is the multi-purpose room. Is there a reason why we didn't use some type of potential for air walls in there to divide that into smaller rooms?
It's a good question. It was discussed, I believe, at a certain point, but we felt like, I think the answer was because we had multiple other spaces that were dividable. I mean, there is a significant cost to the movable partitions, and then it affects the way the room is designed as well, because you got to make sure you have an enclosure at the ceiling and the walls. So the multi-purpose room itself lended itself to not being dividable. It's not to say it couldn't be included in there. It just was, there's a trade-off when you have it. And I think it was determined that room was really better as just a single large room. It could be added if it were really desired.
I was just thinking that was one of the complaints about the ballroom in the old building, was that if you got 12 in there, then nobody else can use it, if you will. And so to avoid that from happening again, we're creating a space that gives us that same situation. And maybe 12 is an exaggeration, but if we got a room that can accommodate 500, to have a group come in that only has 40 people, all of a sudden we can't use the space for anywhere else. So if this were to come to fruition, I would certainly be in favor of making these spaces the highest utility possible to accommodate different groups, so that we don't find ourselves having to tell someone, no, you can't, it's already reserved. And they easily could have gone in there too, had it been dividable.
But and that makes a lot of sense. There are a couple kind of 15, 45, there are multiple other rooms in there, which was part of the logic and not subdividing the multipurpose, but point taken on the multipurpose.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Lehman?
Yeah, I understand what Councilmember Stanky is saying. However, Mr. City Manager, I'm going to say it again. Is there a way to scale this down? Because the bottom line is, how do we pay for it? That can be rather ugly. I mean, I understand where Councilmember Stanky is coming from, that it's, we're talking about building now for 50 years down the road, but guess what? We got to pay for it now. Is there a way to scale this down, or do it in phases? Do something to make it a little bit more palatable financially? Thank you.
Councilmember Laster?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this is it's such a beautiful plan, and I would love to get into the details of doorknobs. However, we don't have a funding mechanism for it. This isn't for you. This is more for us and staff. As Councilmember Kaduke mentioned, and I believe Councilmember Long and I supported this a few weeks back, we talked about that phased-in cost approach. And I also want to remind folks that we have not done well subsidizing amenities. I'll give you 3 examples from 2017. I remember when I was elected the first time, Sunsplash, the golf course at Coral Oaks, and charter schools. We didn't do a very good job subsidizing those. They were not self-sustaining. So I think a phased-in approach is the only way this is going to work. And to Councilmember Steinke's point, you may be right. We may have a lovely piece of green space for people to walk their dogs on until we can figure the rest out. But for now, I agree with, the marina things, because in my opinion, those will be ready around the same time. Hopefully the boathouse is completed. So at least people can get in and out to visit the boathouse in the next 2 to 3 years. So I think the marina piece is key. We already have the Army Corps permits as of last May. So I'll say this again. I know the mayor has said repeatedly that always the plan was to go from the outside in, and I still agree with that. I think going from the outside in makes perfect sense. And what the in is or looks like or moving forward, we don't have an answer for that yet. I think that we need to phase this in because we have no funding mechanism to pay for this. Scaling it back, we could absolutely do, but maybe we start with what we have budgeted for now, which is the external piece, and then we pause on the interior until, we got no bites on the RFI. That should be a huge clue to us. And without a plan to pay for this, I can't support it. Anything other than what we already have approved with the permitting for the marine side. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Donnell.
Hey, thank you, gentlemen. I would just say, and thank you, City Manager. You did exactly what we asked, wanted to bring, because I had never seen the presentation. So to the gentleman at the podium, my first thought was impressive. It was really impressive. So thank you, and thank you. But no need for you guys to keep standing, because we're just kind of talking right now. If you want to stand, fine. But this, you see, we're into just the broader piece. We really don't have questions for you guys. So council, it's interesting the things we say and then what people interpret and hear. I don't know how you get that. All of us, not all, I really do think there's a majority of us up here that, first of all, we don't embrace it as is, the majority of us. We would keep talking about, we have to do something differently. The second thing is, where I think we all on point, is how we're going to pay for it. If my understanding right now, well, Ms. Feast, would you come up for a second, please, ma'am? The question is, do we, as we speak right now, I just have a direct question to ask. Ms. Feast, could you, if we were to go to any form, whether it be 100, I don't know how some people feel that I supported a $270 million project. I don't know where someone came up with that conclusion, but it is what it is. If we were to scale back from, I think from 200 of it to 100 million, or even 50 million, how would we fund this project as we speak right now today?
It would most likely be debt funded.
Okay.
The presentation that was done by our financial advisor during the budget workshop included this project along with some other potential projects in a debt capacity analysis that was done. She included this project at 165 million. So scaling it back would mean that essentially based on their advisement, it would still be doable in that structure.
Okay, but the direct answer is, as we speak today, before us, is it would be debt funded, 100%.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. That's all I have. Okay. And I'm hearing up here, that's not going to fly with the majority of people up here. So now we say, well, what do we do? I hear about we're just not on board with the pieces, the community center. We've talked up here, the 7 of us, about the probably scaling it back. The outside in approach makes sense, but I don't think we're on board with how the outside looks as is. So we'll just put a $25 million tag on it. It's not going to fly. So, well, what am I saying in conclusion? Ladies and gentlemen, if we're going to do anything, the boathouse is going to open. We want to get that area open. We already have approved the seawall. If we get some restrooms out there, we get some boat slips out there, so they can go, because I know I used to take, some of you all put your jet skis and stuff out there just to get the people in the water. And then we're going to have to deliberate about how we're going to move forward. This will go on infinitum because we don't have a funding mechanism, and we're not going to put it to referendum. So I'm just suggesting to us, without back and forth, I hear you, Councilman Malone, just the bare, just get it open so people can start to use it. They have to have a restroom facility. And then somehow or another, we're going to have to, downsize this piece if we're going to move forward, or talk about the larger piece, because I love it, but it's just right now, the timing it's just not going to work the way I hear the council. So that's all I have for us tonight. I'm not going to be coming back to it. So thank you for the time.
Councilmember Kaduki.
Thank you. And Councilmember Donnell, why don't we put it out as a referendum? Then the people will speak and we'll have our marching orders from them. We will know yes or no. Do they want this or do they not? On that note, Councilmember Stanky is right. We could develop it in just the marine aspect and what do they have to do there. In this beautiful rendering, it's awesome, but there's no hotel. So everyone's going to come either by their yacht. I hope there's lots of them. Or they're going to come and they're going to park in the parking garage and pay $3, $4, $5 an hour to pay for it. That's our funding mechanism, guys. To me, government needs to get back to the basics. We provide infrastructure, we provide we ensure public safety, and recreational is green open space. So to me, we keep the pier, we keep the beach, and we put a for sale sign up. And there's your internet clip, Councilmember Kilrain. Thank you.
Councilmember Kilrain.
Yeah, I'm back to the funding strategy. I'd like to see the city put together a funding strategy. Right now, we have a basic design. Maybe that funding strategy includes modifying that design, and you might be able to identify some areas where that might be able to be done. It might include bringing a part of this to someone else. I don't know, but I'd like to give you the opportunity to back at us with some substantive recommendations or strategy to do it in a manner that makes sense. And I don't know what that even means right now from a design standpoint. It might mean a scaled back pool. It might mean a scaled back recreation center. It might mean a restaurant to someone else, and leave the parking to the future. But come back with something to us so we have something substantial to discuss. I think if we go out for a referendum right now, and it's a no, absolutely. I wouldn't support it in a referendum the way it's structured right now. I don't want to see the city take on such a debt load that we don't have the opportunity to do anything else that might come up and put us in a position where, we're burned out. We just don't have any more fuel for the fire. So I want to make sure that we have enough lagniappe, if you will, in being able to go forward and pick up things that are really needed from an infrastructure standpoint. So I don't think any one of us up here want a burden of full debt load with your current estimate. So maybe there's a way to do it that you might be able to find by thinking through it a little bit differently than we have in the past. And I don't think we can do it up here in the dais. I think if you presented a plan to us with some kind of funding strategy that makes sense, and do some logical thinking in that process. And we probably each one could brainstorm with you and come up with something, but to do it as a group up here right now, I don't think we can. So thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. I'd like to put forth the funding strategy piece and see if there's interest in doing that.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Steinke.
Thank you, Mayor. Crystal, check me on just a couple things here. One, I believe the last time we wanted to really boil this down to how much money's left that we would have to invest in this. And I believe the number was around 196,000.
No.
Was that not right?
Million.
No.
I'm sorry, 196 million. Yeah, 196,000 probably, we wouldn't be here this long.
Approved.
Yeah.
I'll take two.
So, yeah.
Are you talking about debt capacity or the project?
No, I'm talking about the project. I think we had it boiled down to around 196 million.
Right, but that included the seawall and some of the things that are, separate. I think seawall was 22 million.
Yeah, we've already committed and started construction on the seawall. So the remaining estimate for the yacht club is 172
For the construction.
Okay. Not knowing that, working with the 196 number, I just tried to run a number to say, all right, if we were to finance this, what we're not at that point. Now we're not talking about the 100 and in my case 96 million. We're talking about what does it cost every year to pay down the debt service, and in paying down the debt service. And Councilmember Kaduki, you can check on this. I looked at a 20-year note at 6%. Came out to about $1.4 million a year. Would be your annual 20-year service. No,
That seems low. And the 22 million for the seawall, we are planning on funding that through debt as well. So I think we should roll it all in together. So 200 million would probably be closer to maybe 9 million debt service, annual debt service.
and we have is it approximately 110,000, let's call it dwellings in the city?
That I'm not sure of.
I'm just thinking when we're trying to present to the residents the impact on them, that's what matters to them. We can certainly see from all of the pictures and videos and all that we have, we can say how great it is and what everybody will experience. Yeah. I think when we present it to them, I think we should present it to them in a way that says, this is how it would impact you individually.
Yeah.
And so to Councilmember Kilrain's point, if we can come up with, all right, how do we fund this? And if we were to fund it where we were, all, as a city, all personally responsible for it, to boil it down to the point that each person knows this is how it would affect me.
Okay.
I think that would be valuable to people to try to put things in perspective. This is what I get. This is how it affects me to get it. And if we do that, I think it'd be a much more, rational way for people to deal with it on whether they would want that for themselves or not. So that if it were to go to referendum and we would have 60 or 70,000 people vote, we know that they know how it's affecting them, not that what they're voting on is a $200 million issue that they themselves have never dealt with. A $200 million issue. They've dealt with how much their house costs, how much their car cost, and what the effect was to them. So I'd love to see us bring that back in a way when we do, from the standpoint of a funding mechanism. If we did it this way, this is what each household how it would affect you.
Just for perspective, our current governmental debt in total is 228 million. And so the debt per capita for that is $931. So that's relatively close to what we're talking about now. So about $900 per parcel or unit.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I've heard it said by a few of you about a referendum. I'm assuming you're talking about a general obligation bond referendum in anticipation of this potentially being something that you brought up. We're coming up to be dangerously close to not having enough time to get it all done. I did verify that in anticipation, but we're getting very, very close. If you all want to do that, it could be done, but it's going to be very, very tight. Every week we delay is going to be that much more problematic. So I just want you all to be aware of that. I did verify whether or not it can be done. Can we get it done in recognition of that? But we are getting close with every week that we're going to be unable to meet the deadline as required. So I just want you all to be aware of that.
Yeah, I guess I'll jump in here real quick since I haven't spoken. For me, I always thought this project here, at least lately, it's definitely going to be a phased-in approach for this particular project. For me, some of the things that are important that I think that we have to consider to do first, for me, is the docks. To put the docks back in there, that was estimated at about $12 million. We do have an agreement with The boathouse where we have to put in the fuel tanks, that's $3 million. We already know that the Harbor Master building has been identified at about $7 million. The beach restrooms are about $4 million. And we have a maintenance building of $2 million.
37.
If you add all that up, it's $28 million. And that's if we don't do anything else. Now, there are one thing that we have in there in the proposal is $35 million for civil site improvements and utilities. I don't know what that exactly entails or if any of that has to be completed, even to put in the, the restrooms or the Harbor Master building. So that's a question that we need to have answered.
And some of that needs to be done to bring electric, water, and sewer for fire down to the boathouse. So some of that has to be done even for them to start.
Right. So I think for me, what I am looking for when you look at that 35 million, how do we break that down and what it's going to cost to bring in the essentials down there? I think we need to identify that. And then we know we got the fuel tanks, like I said, the docks. We already know we had $29 million left over from last year's budget. So what I am looking for when you talk about, funding strategies, I think we need to have a more defined approach where we have a variety of options. We got to bring water and sewer down for the boathouse. That's going to be X amount of dollars. Or, if we want to build the Harbor Master building and put the beach restrooms in, what type of infrastructure is going to take? How much is that going to cost? So I think we need to have an approach where we know what the infrastructure is going to cost and then see what's left over. We know the docks, the fuel tanks, just those two alone are 15 million. I know, we've had a few individuals the last couple of weeks that have called and inquired about the docks. But we could sit here all day and wait for somebody to walk through the door. Hopefully they will. But I think we need to have a good strategic plan with cost analysis so we can decide what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Utilities and infrastructure to me is first. What are we going to have to do? If we don't put in the pool, we don't put in the recreational center, and we don't put in the, the parking garage now, what's the bare minimum that we have to put in down there? And then if later on we want to take and add to that, whether it's debt or if it's, hey, next year we got $20 million left over, and we throw that $20 million at what can we get done with that? So I think that's what I am really looking for. We can see all the renderings in the world, the best pictures, the flyover, that's all well and good. If we can't pay for it, why waste our time looking at that? So I think now the rubber's got to meet the road, get some of those numbers together for us so we as a council can decide if we want to put any dollars towards it, whether it's monies that's left over or any type of debt, what that looks like. Of course, if it's money that we have that we haven't spent, of course, that's not going to cost us any additional monies. If it's debt, how much is that debt going to cost us on an annual basis? When you look at the project, I wish we had the money and we could build it. And then we haven't even talked about the big elephant in the room. We don't know what the property taxes are going to do this year. So I've said that before. We don't know what legislation is going to do. I know the session's supposed to end next week, I believe it is, but we already heard they'll definitely have a special session to talk about property taxes. For me personally, I have to feel a little more comfortable with what's going to happen there because especially if we're talking about debt, if we're talking about incurring debt, but losing millions of dollars in property taxes on an annual basis, I'm concerned with that too. So would I love to have this facility? Absolutely. But I think we have to, come to the realization that it's a lot of money. We have a lot of things. I know some of you, I've already walked through it, but I know some of us have went and looked at the fleet building. I know we have the maintenance building, that has to be paid for. So there are a lot of other projects that staff has already identified that needs to happen. So I'm not willing to spend $196 million in debt and then not be able to do some core service projects that I think are important. So that's where I stand on it. So Mr. City Manager, what I would like to see is let's look at that civil site improvement utilities. What has to be put in? You've said that we already have to do some things for the boathouse. I know we have the fuel tanks that we got to put in at 3 million. And then I would like to possibly look at the docks and trying to get them back there. With the docks comes the harbor master building, I believe also. So, we just got to see what that cost is going to be and try to come up with a funding strategy. Quite honest with you, I've been talking about this for the last several years, and it all comes down to the dollars. Quite honestly, I'm almost tired of talking about it. Let's figure out what we're going to do, what we're going to fund, how we're going to move forward, how that phased approach is going to be. I think all 8 of us here can say we're not going to do the whole project now. So we have to decide what we're going to do and what we're not going to do.
So based on the discussion, I mean, just about every one of you, I think it was unanimous. I think you all do agree we're going to need to go this a phased in approach. So I'm going to need some time. We can absolutely do this. We had a funding strategy for 150. We need to come up with a little bit more, but let us get back with Kimley Horn. We need to go over the contract with the Kearns, for the boathouse. We need to look at what's required for the docks. On the site and civil improvements, when we go down there to permit anything, I'm pretty sure our current codes are going to require us to put in all the landscaping based on by the 1,000 square foot of. So we may also look at. You've all heard about this recently for schools and for some other projects. So we need some time to really digest if we're going to phase this, how we can do it without requiring putting in all the landscaping and all the irrigation and all the parking if we're only going to do a component piece of it. With that, we will prioritize based on what we think is going to generate revenue, right? The boathouse is going to generate revenue. The docks are going to generate revenue. Some of the stuff is not going to generate revenue. So we will look at those elements that generate revenue to help generate payments for the debt service. And we will put a prioritization as we see it along with the costs and the revenue offset for the debt service. And we can lay that out from $0 all the way up to the full spend. And then we can come back and have another meeting at a later date. This is going to take probably at least a month, because I need weeks to set up external meetings with Kimley Horn and the architects. I need time to set up meetings with staff, our external financial consultant, all of it.
Mayor? Yeah, along with that, Mike, I think that would provide us a little bit of time to understand what the state might be doing on the tax piece. Because if we go through the parameters or the opportunities there that they're going to saddle us with, I think from a reduction in available ad valorem tax, we might have a better picture of what that is. And I mean, the inside track now is telling us that maybe it's going to be just the homestead piece capped at 200 if you have insurance or something like that. And maybe we could have a couple of those parameters too. But because if we make decisions about what's available for us in the short term, and without factoring that in, we're going to be right back here again if that changes. So that timeline is probably good for us.
I'm not. I think for the analysis we need to do, what the state's doing is
I know, but
right?
I'm saying if we had that, if this is going to be our right hand, on what this is going to cost us and the way we phase it in. Be nice to know on the other
Yeah.
hand, that we may have to back out or balance it against.
But I'm not going to hold this up.
No, I don't mean to hold that up. I think I was trying to respond to the month being maybe a good timeline for you. I think that that's appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta really go through the codes, because I'm based on my understanding of the codes, as soon as we pull the first permit, for anything on the upland, not the marine, it's going to trigger a whole downstream effect. So we need to understand what we can carve up, what other things might need to change to allow some flexibility, and then understand you're going to be looking at pages, right? Engine. So what the water line is needed up to here. If we do this, the sewer line is needed to here, the 3-phase, single phase, it's going to take some time. This is not a simple exercise, but it's absolutely doable.
Yeah. And the only redeeming thing about that service is that it helps to new pays for new, because it's programmed out. But that's the only redeeming factor. And there's so much negative to that service that, I'd like to stay away from it.
And you can always approve extraordinary circumstances on the park's impact fee. It's a joke.
Councilmember Kaduti.
Thank you, Mayor. And Mayor, I agree with everything you said. I'm going to sound like a broken record. Back to the basics for government. Provide and manage infrastructure. So if that means we have to put in the water and sewer lines, so be it. If that means we need to put in the marine work because we can deal with the Army Corps of Engineers to get that permit, so be it. But when we talk about a phased-in approach of building a banquet hall or a ballroom, which, by the way, I love, I think you all know that I was a huge proponent of that. It is not the government's job. That is a developer's job. That's not the government's job to do. So we can talk about a phased-in approach, but I'm going to tell you right now, I don't support it. My phased-in approach is finish the marine work, the basics of the infrastructure, and put the for sale sign up. Because we're going to pay for it one way or another. We're going to pay for it in our taxes. We're going to pay for it in a user fee. We're going to pay for it with the parking garage when we have to pay to park there. So what are we really, we're not getting a benefit. Put the for sale sign up, bring the commercial tax base back online, and now we do have a benefit. All of us do. And you can choose to go use that service or facility. And by the way, we talked about the surplus. We can use the $29 million in surplus to pay for this. Now we're not in a debt service. We're just using our surplus from last year and whatever we have next year, and boom, marine work is done and infrastructure is paid for without any debt service. So then that saves you a whole month of work. That's all. Thank you.
I love selling it. I love that idea.
Councilmember Donnell.
I'm sorry, I said I wasn't coming back, but my name was invoked, Council, by Councilmember Kaduki. So I would like a chance to respond, if I may. Councilmember Kaduki, you said, well, Councilmember Donnell, why wouldn't we put it on referendum and let the people vote? And I hear you, and it was in such passion. But I wanted to respond to you to say, there were 4 inflection points. Being the old man up here, I want to take you back to this community, because all of us have a heartbeat of the community. The year was 2005, 2006. The temperature went up 100 degrees because of the $100 million police building that was supposed to be built. Let's move forward now to 2009, when the UEP got stopped. The temperature went up. Now we get to 2024, the stipend, the temperature goes up. And now we're back in 2026, where we talking about Yacht Club, the temperature goes up. So in response to you, whenever we know that something is going to fail, there's no need to put it out there just to muddle up the election ballot. That's the reason why we don't put things we know are going to fail on the ballot. Did I answer your question? Thank you, ma'am. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other lights on, Mr. City Manager, you get the direction you're looking for?
Yes, I did. And once I put together the schedule for how we need to do all this with the consultants, I'll update you all on, I'm winging it with a month. So let me figure out from them and I'll get back with you.
All right. Okay, we move on to item 5. Anybody that hasn't filled out a comment card, like to speak today, make sure you fill out a comment card. And we are going to move to item 6. Roundtable discussion, I don't see anything listed. Anyone have any roundtable discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 7 is citizens input. Time citizens input is a maximum of 60 minutes is set for the input of citizens on matters concerning city government, 3 minutes per individual. Please remember to state your name and Madam City Clerk.
Sorry, Mayor, excuse me, point of order. The roundtable discussion, I'm sorry, I wanted to see if I can get a consensus. I want to talk about how we're going to fix the yacht club. Oh, sorry, just kidding. All right, I'll take it.
I was just going to see if you brought your checkbook today.
Better.
It's like, stop playing. Just kidding. Should see his face, man.
All right, so we'll move to the citizens input. Madam City Clerk, you go ahead and call your first person.
Marie Kavanaugh and Tom Shadrack.
She was here earlier.
Yes.
I'll take Marie's time too. Tom Shadrack, permanent resident. I was here for the CRA and talked about the $25 million bond for Bimini East. Just now that it was said that I was inaccurate again, which I was just asking questions about what I thought I heard. So I wasn't trying to be inaccurate. And I thought during the workshop, a couple of the council members made a point to say, you were a little surprised that that $25 million was going to be long-term debt for when we invested $45 million. So I don't think I was the only one that was not remembering that most of that would have been having to be covered by debt from the CRA. It's good to know that there is a shell game that can go from millage rate money to the CRA, and you don't have to get a vote or referendum for using that debt. That was interesting. Thank you for that information. Moving on to the yacht club. I sent you guys emails with a plan. Sounds like you're going down my plan. I know the mayor doesn't read my emails, so
That's
go
not
read
true.
it. Well, you told me before, I don't read his emails. That's what you told the council.
I did read that one.
Okay, so I think it sounds like to me you're following that plan, which is great because I think that's common sense. It's all about common sense, and that's what I've heard here today. So I really think that's fantastic. I wish you'd have done it before you gave Kimley Horn $7 million to go design something we couldn't afford when we knew that 3 years ago. So it would be smart to know, what is your debt tolerance? There's nothing the city manager needs to go do to give you more data to determine how much debt you think we can afford. You were just told it's going to cost $900 million per household to do this plan. I don't think anybody would consider that normal or would pay $900 for that yacht club to what's been designed on their tax bill every year for 20 years or whatever it is. So that's a non-starter. But what is the threshold? Is it $50? What you're representing us up there. Tell us what you think should be the debt threshold. Is it 50 million for that place? 20 million? 100 million? Give him better direction on how much you think the debt should be for that facility down there. You need to direct him on the money that you think we should pay for that. That's your job, to represent us and what you think our residents should pay for a facility like that. Give him a dollar value so he can focus on what it will be done to be able to do in that with that bucket of money. And that's really the common sense approach I gave you. So I'd appreciate you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julia Atari and Jay Higgins.
Hi, I'm Julia Atari, Take Out the Trash, Cape Coral. First thing I want to say is when residents are struggling to stay in their homes and live, every public dollar and all the city resources that we have should be faced helping our community and not promoting private projects. And you were absolutely right, Congresswoman, we are not developers. It's not our job to develop land. If they want to be land developers, then they can go do it on somebody else's dime and time. I did listen to you about the outdoor refrigerators, and my curiosity is this, and I had the opportunity year resident, one of the first businesses in Cape Coral. They've been here a long time. And that woman was in tears when I was speaking to her. It was pretty heartfelt for me. And now, what is the difference between red box, ice machines, pallets of water, and the propane tank machines outside of a local convenience store opposed to two $5,000, and I'm going to tell you, they were $5,000 refrigerators. This wasn't something out of grandma's backyard. Somebody donated them to her to help feed people in need. So if we're going to get it straight, at least get it straight. I mean, they make it sound like she had some rusty old piece of crap on her front yard. That's not what it was. And I was there, and hundreds of people a day go there for food. In case you want to know, sit there for an hour. It amazes you. On their way home from work, they stop for a meal. It probably could be their only meal of the day. So this stuff just boggles my mind when you can see every other local grocery store have crap all over the front of it. And back to the flagpole. Okay, it was supposed to be privately funded. So I'm going to ask again, who's paying for the advertisements? Who's paying for the ads on the radio? This was never a project that the citizens started. This was another genius idea from the $1 Million Men. This was not the citizens' idea, and we still don't have FAA approval. We didn't have voter approval. We don't have EPA approval, nothing. And we just spent $7 million on a yacht club we can't afford. That's fine. That's our mistake, our money. But this is his project. He's supposed to pay for these things, these reports, these investigations. This is not a city project.
Thank you.
I had more to say, but ran out of time.
I bet she does have more to say too. Hi, Council. I'm Jay Higgins, District 6. Got a few things to say. Drugged me out of my house today to come and speak. But number one, Councilman 7, I'm with you on the Yacht Club. Thank you. And the changes they were talking about, going back and rephasing and all this that we just talked about here a few minutes ago, is that going to cost us more money too? Really? Wow. We have full pockets, I suppose. Well, I really came to talk about the flagpole, and, you know, how can you not be for a flagpole, right? I mean, we love our country, we love our flag, we love our service people, our veterans, our police officers, people that protect us. We love our neighbors, we are patriotic, and we love our flag. I fly my flag in front of my house every day, and I've done it for a lot of years. I love putting a flagpole in my yard, putting it in concrete, and flying Old Glory. But I'm tired of hearing people, especially on the radio, telling me I'm unpatriotic. I don't love the country or the flag because I don't support this project. But along with one of the ladies that just spoke, this is supposed to be and was sold as privately funded, and I know it is. We've been told we have a letter that's going to backstop everything. Well, we had a contract called the Reef at JC Park in writing. I think that was a contract in writing. And you see what happened there. We lost them, and we lost the money. And the citizens now are burdened with another failed project like the GO bond, for example. And as Mr. Shadrack said, $25 million of financing on Bimini East. How long are we going to continue to go down these paths of failed projects that cost the citizens money? It's not about the flagpole. It's about broken promises. That's what it's about. It's not about not being patriotic. We are patriotic. We're tired of hearing that we are not patriotic, because we are. And the whole thing about we've got this secret letter. We made this secret deal in the back rooms in the dark. That's what it looks like to us citizens. How much more happens in the dark that we don't know about? It looks bad. Looks very bad. And we want to know who that donor is and what's he getting out of it, or what has he gotten out of it already. The end.
David Halsey.
Good afternoon. I'm David Halsey. I am a resident. I would like to thank y'all. It's taken a year of my time coming here and listening. Maybe I won't come back anymore, and maybe I won't go into any more of your town halls, because I think the point got across. And again, thank you. Y'all have used some good common sense today on the Yacht Club. One of the things that you didn't discuss, though, when we're talking about all this money, we still haven't talked about supplying it with the equipment and the fixtures. And we also didn't talk about the pier. And they even discussed it in their presentation. The pier isn't included in any of that. I personally would like to see the pier. I personally would like to see the boat ramps. My neighbors, he has to drive all over the place to try to get his boat in the water, or take it out that he now wants to take back to New York. So some of the marina, yes. A $4 million bathroom? No. But again, thank you for common sense. And another thing, can we now move the podium back to the center? Because I think that the deal with the police officers having 4 in here because of one person isn't fair to the rest of us. So I would just like to make the point, I think if he's not going to come back, or whatever that problem was, can we please move the podium back? Y'all have a great day. Thank you very much.
Is that all? Okay, I'll open up for any discussion from citizens' input. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I also wanted to respond regarding the flag, because, a lot of people like to recreate a narrative, what they hear, what their expectation of what they heard is. This originally started with me saying for the 250th anniversary, I was going to put a supplemental budget request in the budget to do something grander than what we normally do. And so I explained, a week-long series of events, a parade, a bike ride organized. The flag was a component of that. And in that budget session, you all told me that you could not support that unless the public fundraised the flag. That's how it started. So then I have now taken it based on that direction to go fundraise the flag. It's really simple. It's not convoluted or complex. I don't spend hardly any time at all doing it. I do get invited by 92.5 to come on the show. I think I've been on there 3 times, twice in person, maybe 3 times in person, and once on a phone call. It's since November. They are actually, it's free. They're not charging the city. They're not charging anybody. They are supporting it because they utilize Bernice Braden to do Field of Flags for a 9/11 remembrance. And to them, this is something that they are willing to support and use airtime to help support. So this narrative that has somehow shifted from getting the community to fundraise the construction to is now forever and in perpetuity, you could say that about any capital. If somebody donates us a tree, I would tell you that a $200 tree donation, I'm going to spend that in a year trimming it and fertilizing it. Every donation that the city gets has an operation and maintenance component at the end. My understanding of you all saying fundraise the capital construction, I wanted to make sure that's what it was. Yes, that's what we're doing. Now, as far as the donor goes, I think the speaker who spoke today, I think that was an excellent analogy. There's concerns based on history. That's America. Our processes are clunky. Things are meant to be challenged. People have a voice. Exactly what that flag is going to stand for. I will tell you, based on council's concerns, the same exact reason. I have spoken to the donor who is willing to backstop it, and they have agreed to sign an escrow agreement. They are going to put the money up, sign an agreement, and every month as we generate and collect more in proceeds, we will release some of their money back to them. Hopefully at the end, we don't even need it. But they are willing to do that. And so the concerns of the resident and the concerns of all of you, hopefully by the end of this week, will be satisfied and we can move on. Thank you.
Council members, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. David, I hope you continue to come. It's been a pleasure to have you here. And what's certainly been a pleasure is your comments and your remarks have always been without accusation. They have been without name calling, and they have been without inferences of corruption. They've simply been a concerned citizen being willing to listen to all the facts that were presented and offering your suggestions and your point of view. We appreciate that. Jay, same to you, my friend. You have been able to come with impassioned, emotional positions, but without accusation, without name calling, and without inferences of corruption. So I highly respect the way you've attended and participated as a citizen, and it would be a sad day if you don't keep coming, David. You didn't threaten not coming, Jay. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, seeing no other lights on, we'll move on to item 8, time and place of future meeting. We have a regular meeting of the Cape Coral City Council scheduled for Wednesday, March 25th, 2026, beginning at 4 p.m. here in council chambers. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?